On today's edition of Blue Collar Elk Hunting, if you're privileged to know Armando Martinez, then you have already been affected by the man's infectious smile and the positive energy that this dude just emits everywhere he goes. But forget all that harmonious kumbaya stuff. We're here to talk about all things elk, and I'm going to make sure we do with Armando. Him and I are going to talk about the tried and true gear that has become his go-tos while hunting elk and other species. We're also going to talk about the biggest challenges for him that he has seen with elk hunters during his years as a guide, his own personal challenges, and some of the key things that now make the difference for him in the elk woods. So y'all, pull up a chair, adjust your volume just right, and welcome to a special edition of Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Giglia. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Oh my gosh. Welcome to the show, everyone. I have with me one of my favorite folks in the whole world. You might know him as Mr. Bo Hitch. I don't know. I don't know if the Mrs. Bo Hitch would take that, but I know him as a great father, a passionate, successful hunter, and someone that really makes the world a better place. And you know what, Bud? I'm so proud of you. It's so amazing that such a withdrawn social degenerate like yourself could could turn their life around the way you have. Welcome, Armando Martinez, man. Welcome to the
show. Well, thank you, sir. I'm going to climb out of my shell just for this episode, you know.
Oh, dude, man. I was like, man, I mean, it's so hard to say anything bad about you, man. I mean, you know, and I'm like, man, I just can't let him get away with it on the show, starting off like this, man.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. It's like the old saying goes, you know, I used to hold the flashlight for my dad, so I could take it, Joe. Bring it on. I could take it. Yeah, between that and the fire department, you develop some pretty thick skin.
Yeah, you know, I've always wondered about that whole fire department thing, man. Because you know, we watch all that. My wife loves Chicago Fire. You know, that's one of her things that she likes watching. And all I can remember is every time I went by there, man, somebody was washing a truck or somebody was cooking a dinner. Or
that's facts. That is true. That's the real Chicago Fire there.
Yeah, man. To all my brothers, man, out there that and sisters that do that incredible job that keep all of us safe and every day put themselves on the line. I just want to thank you, and Armando, I want to thank you for all the years that you put in doing that, man. Just unbelievable commitment to people and communities. You know, the way you guys do what you do.
Thank you, brother. Honored and privileged to be able to do it. I really think everybody has a calling to do what they're supposed to be doing. You know, God puts us where he wants us. And I didn't know that that's where I was supposed to be, but 20 years came and went really quick. And I was able to do a lot of really good things for a lot of people. And you know, I guess the ultimate deal is leave it better than you found it. And I believe that the division I left and the department I left was better when I was gone, you know, than when I found it. So it was cool. I appreciate that. And yeah, shout out to all the boys and girls in red and blue. And I was the police and the fire side. So all first responders, anybody who goes out and deals with bad things on a daily basis, like huge shout out to you guys. I didn't really realize what we were doing at the time. You know, kind of when you're in the forest, you can't see, you know, the forest through the trees.
Right.
And now that I'm gone, and I see these calls on the side of the road, or you just remember there's certain smells and certain things that bring it back, and it's like that was pretty, you know, it was pretty high speed stuff. That was some Chicago Fire stuff that happens every day, you know, around the country, not just in Albuquerque, really it happens every day. So kudos to those of you who answered the call and are doing that work and protecting people and sharing your gift. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, and you haven't stopped being cool, dude. I mean, you just kind of changed shirts a little bit. And I mean, you found a way in your next career here to be able to do a lot of that as well, and some incredible positive stuff. And you're still real deep in the community, helping them out. I know that besides what's going on right now with the Random Acts of Kindness giveaway that you're doing on Instagram, that you guys have done every year for, I don't know, what is this, like third?
This is year 3.
Yeah, year 3 of this, man. And it just gets bigger and better, and everybody that gets involved with that is so cool. But you're always doing things in the community as far as drives for clothes, drives for shoes, food, and different things like that. And your kids and your family are involved in that. And it's so cool from me on the outside looking in at all of those and seeing how you involve your family in the whole giving process and awareness and perspective process of what's happening to people around them in their communities. So great job, Dad. So
Thank you. That's the best compliment you could ever get. So I appreciate that.
yeah, and everybody that does know you connects you with the bow hitch, right? You're that you and Doug have done this, have created the bow hitch and actually Simply Savage Solutions, right? Because it goes beyond the bow hitch. And I'll just let you explain what you do and where you guys have gone with it.
Sure. So the business is actually named Simply Savage Solutions, and when we started our business, Doug and I, it was we had the name, we had the LLC, and the bank account, and all the stuff you have to do to start a business, and that was Simply Savage Solutions. We actually didn't have a name for the bow hitch. We didn't know what it was called, and we literally for a couple of years before we launched the product had no idea what it was called. So when we've made our first samples and our first bag toppers actually say Simply Savage Solutions because it didn't have a name. And one day I was driving home, and a buddy of mine, an old cowboy, he called me up, and we're just kind of, shooting shit. And he's like, "Well, how's that thing you're doing?" And I was like, "What are you talking?" And he's like, that thing you made. And I was like, "Oh." I was like, "Well, it's cool, man. Like, it actually works. I went hunting with it, and it is really, it is amazing. It works. You're gonna love it. I can't wait to get you one." So he's like, "Well, what do you call it?" I started laughing, and I was like, "Dude, I don't know. We don't have a name for it. Like, we haven't thought of anything cool." So he says, "Well, what does it do?" And I was like, "Well, you kind of just put it on your bow, and then you hitch it to your pack, and that's it. And then it just sits there." And he's like, "We'll call it a bow hitch." And that was it, dude. I mean, I remember where I was on the freeway. I was driving home, and I was like, "Dude," I was like, "Billy, I got to call you back, dude. I got to call Doug." And so I hung up with him, and I called Doug, and I was like, "Bro, the bow hitch." And he's like, "Oh, that's perfect." And that was it, man. That's how we got our name, and how the bow hitch came to, the name of the bow hitch came to be.
Isn't that crazy, man? Just, I mean, we so overcomplicate some things sometimes,
we always do that. And I think that's one of the benefits of what we're trying to do, especially with our new products and going back to Simply Savage Solutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the title, simple. Keep it simple, like the KISS acronym, keep it simple, stupid. And people, we have to remind ourselves of that in the fire and on the police side all the time, because you want to overcomplicate things. And it's just very easy to do, even in the hunting world. Let's do this and let's do this. And it's like, bro, let's be patient. Yeah. Let's not overthink this. Yeah. He's calling. We're here. We're going to have to meet at some point. Let's just everybody chill out. So with the Simply Savage Solutions, we really try to make it a point to keep everything as simple as possible, to where when you are in the heat of the moment, you don't have to think about it. It's just such an easy operation with whatever we have that it just happens.
Yeah, I think that's the great part. And when you really think about all of those great inventions or creations that are out there, how many times you find yourself going, dude, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? Right? You know,
Yes,
it,
absolutely.
the best things are the simplistic things because they're there to do a task to make our life easier. And if you any of our listeners out there have never heard of the bow hitch itself, I always put the two words together, and it just seems like it goes together to me. And if you've never heard of it, today Armando and I are going to talk elk. We're going to talk gear. We're going to talk about some different parts of gear. We're going to talk about things that he does with gear and how that is probably the opposite. Because one reason I wanted you here with me, Armando, to talk about gear is because I am the least person to talk about. I am the most simple person in the woods, other than Manano. Manano doesn't take anything in the dang woods, man. He just ends up taking everything from everybody else. So smart, you know. But so I wanted you on that end because I there's a couple things that I do, and for me to use an item um, that goes beyond my bow, my broadhead, my arrows, my pack, the camo on my body, my scent checker and the calls in my mouth and my grunt tube. But for me to go beyond that stuff, that's really, food and water in that and TP.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides, that stuff, I don't need a whole lot when I'm out there. And there's some things that I've added over the years, and we'll kind of talk about that. But I really wanted to have you to talk about that. And also, man, because everybody knows you as the guy that has the bow hitch, and they see you hooking it up to a bow, and they see you hooking it up to a rifle, and they see now you guys have got attachments so that you can hook it up to if somebody's carrying a shooting setup, or if they're carrying tripods for photography. I mean, that's the only thing I'm like, well, where was this at one point for me? Because, if you've ever had to carry any of that stuff as a guide or as a hunter, carrying it sucks, right? And and for me, like bow carrying systems, and that's what the bow hitch is, y'all. The bow hitch is not just for me, it's a bow carrying system because I don't even own a rifle. And now I'll actually be using it for tripods and actually to carry shooting stuff. What is that, bogs? Like if I take somebody with
Yeah.
bogs, that's a heavy deal. And man, to have that attachment totally changes the game, right? But for me, um, the bow hitch is a bow carrying system, and I've never been a fan of bow carrying systems. As a guide for almost 30 years, if somebody brought in any kind of bow carrying system, I immediately slings, I don't care what it was, I immediately had them take it off, leave it, because we've just lost too many opportunities because of it, right? And when I first met you and saw the bow hitch, and we met at Hit or Miss Archery, got a chance to put it together right there, see how it was, see what it did. And again, the first thing in my mind was, you said, dude, I was like, how long is this going to take? You're like, you time me. It's like, it didn't take very long at all to get on my bow. I mean, like a minute and a half for you to get the screw.
Probably that's it. Yeah. It literally, it's going to take you less than 2 minutes. Let's put it that way.
Right. And what it's going to save you. So it's the great thing about it is we've used it, and I have guys on my crew. Our whole crew uses the bow hitch, and we have guys that when I first, you introduced it to me to introduce to them, they were like, no, I don't think so, man. And I was like, well, da 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 da, and they're like, okay, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to try it, but I'm most likely I'm not going to like it. Luis, Luis is just, he's so straight up, man. I'm just not going to like it. So we went out and we ended up hunting in an area that had a lot of blowdown, and by the time that evening that we got home, Luis was like, I'm making commercials, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to promote this thing. It's like this, it honestly, man, it kept us from injuring ourselves. by freeing up our hands. I've packed out animals where I didn't have to worry about packing my bow up on top of my packer, trying to do that whole thing. I had it just right there hooked on as I was going out. If you're packing out and you need to use sticks, your bow is just right there. The other great thing about it is that I found is I had actually a buddy that was hunting with me that had another product, a product that mounted on the back of his pack. And going through the stuff that we went through, he lost 3 arrows, right? Never knew where they dropped, when they dropped, how they dropped. It's just because of them hitting the fletch. It popped it off. Where the way I carry mine on my left side, my quiver of arrows actually stays against my hip and keeps them actually in the quiver and protected when I go through stuff, so that I'm actually able to lead my bow as I go through. So I just can't say enough about it. And this isn't going to be a bow hitch show, but that's your product along with, and let's see, what do you call the other device?
So the other sling is called the Solution. So the Solution will work with your rifle, scoped, non-scoped, your crossbow, which is huge for the Eastern industry. Anybody with the crossbow, muzzleloader, anything with the 2 swivels, with the 2 studs to carry your traditional sling, our new Solution will work with that. And so that's one option. And then the other one that you brought up is we have our tripod sling. And it's just that, it's a sling for your tripod. And we'll get into that and why we came up with it as we talk about the hunting and especially the guiding,
right? Because
that has been a hole in the market that needed to be plugged. And so we're going to get the ball rolling on that.
Right. And if anybody, we'll probably tell them at the end, but if they want to find you guys, what is going to be the URL that they're going to look up?
So right now you're looking for thebowhitch.com. Eventually you guys will see it change over to Simply Savage Solutions. It's the same people, same store. We'll probably get, the bow hitch page and redirect it to Simply Savage Solutions. That's just the new web page that we're building for our business. So either one of those will work.
Yeah, and I can tell you, man, it's on my bow back here behind me. It absolutely, that's the thing. It has minimal. You don't even know it's there until you need it, right? That's the great thing about it, and it's just awesome. So that's the bow. But I wanted people to know, because they see you doing that. I wanted people to know you as the hunter you are, man. And I mean, you've guided elk hunters. You hunt a lot yourself. Between yourself, your friends, and your kids, I mean, you put some hours in the woods.
Yeah, we put some days in the woods, dude, for sure. And I'm grateful for every single one of them.
Yeah, awesome, man. So what I wanted to do, and what I wanted to talk about is I kind of want to start, because we have people right now. It's February 1. We're through January. I see everybody doing all these things, getting ready for 3D shoots. They're doing ruck initiatives. They're starting to look into tags. They're doing, it's tag season. Everybody's looking for that out there, trying to up their game and everything. And I think it's real critical early on to really talk about the things, the possible failure points or the challenges and even the things that the tips and the tricks that we know about, and start getting that information out there for them, so that they have, it's so much easier for them to flatten that learning curve, right? Or basically, for all of our listeners out there, if you have struggled to consistently be successful in the elk woods, and when I say consistently, that doesn't even have to be every year. That could be every other year. That's fairly consistent. I've seen some people that, they take an animal every 5 years. I've seen some people that have hunted for 5, 6, 7 years and never taken an animal. So no matter where you are, all of us, myself, Armando, we're all, if we're not learning, we're losing. Right? So
absolutely.
So we're looking to improve. And so I want to start talking about some of those things now to help some people out. So what I wanted to do for you is I want you to tap back to your guiding days, man. And I want you to think about And let's talk about, it can be expectations, it could be preparedness, it could be equipment, it could be process. That's a lot of different areas. And when you think about those expectations and is huge, right? But in all of those, I want to talk about some of the biggest challenges that you've seen for elk hunters during your years as a guide, or even out there with friends, family, and stuff like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into your personal challenges through the years as well, and on your journey, and the key things that now maybe make the difference for you in the elk woods. So that's kind of where we're going to go with it. All right.
Perfect. Let's do it.
So let's hit that. Let's talk about some of those biggest challenges that you've seen for elk hunters during the years that you've been working with them.
So on the guiding portion, it was like there's some very basic things that people need to know when they come into camp. Number one, you're not going to be used to the elevation. 95% of the people that come hunting, they're not physically prepared. Some of them can muscle through it, but for the most part, it's such a simple thing. If you're going to come and hunt with us and you're going to spend, 8, 10, 12, 15,000, whatever it is you're spending on whatever hunt you're going on, why would you not afford yourself the opportunity to get from point A to point B on a daily basis? So I think that's number one, Joe. Like, it doesn't matter how good you shoot, how good you call, what your camo looks like if you can't get your butt up the mountain. Nothing else matters. So for me, when I would walk in and, I meet my hunters and we're around the table where I camp or wherever we meet, and, it's just a very simple, technically we're sizing each other up. He's looking at me like, what's this young punk going to tell me? Like, I've been hunting for however long, and I'm like, oh, great. I got, this guy here who it just like, this is going to be a mess. Like, he's not ready. Like, now I have to adjust my whole game plan in my head. I have some spots that I wanted to hit. I have some cameras, I have whatever. And now the guide has to adjust his hunting plan for the ability of the hunter. So as a hunter, I think guided, not guided, it doesn't matter. Just get yourself ready. You don't need to start rucking today. You don't need to do anything today on a big level, but you have to start today because September is tomorrow. So start walking. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, for me, if you could stick with me, we got 100 times better chances of killing something. So if you can walk with me, if we hear a bull on 2 ridges over, guess what? We could get to it because I trust you. I'm not going to kill you. Like, I've had hunters where I think I cannot go here because this guy might die. Like, you have to think of safety, because it's just a lot of those things. Like, come prepared. If you're going to invest in a hunt, invest in yourself so you give yourself an opportunity, because the guide can only do so much.
It's exactly, I mean, a guide, one of the purposes of the guide is to know where animals are and to be able to take somebody to those animals. But I know exactly what you're saying is that game plan is going to be changed according to the fitness of the person that I'm taking. I can know where all the elk are, man, but if I can't get you there, it doesn't matter. And so your opportunities, or the amount of opportunities and encounters that you can have, can go directly in proportion to your conditioning and your shape. When you start limiting yourself and your condition, then you're limiting opportunities. Now, I think that's why people, when they talk just strictly guide, that's why they go to them. They want a professional to find a way to get them there or to get to an animal. But you're limiting opportunities. And in limiting opportunities, I've had people that have passed on animals when they shouldn't because they're already limited in their opportunities, right? And so, no, that you're totally right. And the word ruck, I just want to tell you, dude, like, this whole Instagram thing has all been new to me since we started the business. So I never talked to other people. I wasn't a military dude. So I never heard the word ruck. And when people were talking about, I knew that had no clue what they meant by ruck. So basically, it's just loading a pack and hiking, right, with a loaded pack.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And to me, that's fine and great. But the more that, just like Armando said, the more that you walk, and it's like this: if I'm going to swim the English Channel, I better be swimming. If I'm going to be hunting elk, I better be walking, man. I better be hiking, and I better be incorporating steps, hills, step overs, and everything like that. The whole backpack thing, heavyweight happens once you kill an animal. So you can consider that 99% of your hunt is going to be with something on your pack without having killed an animal. So you might be looking anywhere from 20, 25 pounds maybe on your back. So the most important thing I'd say is get walking, get doing hills, do hit stuff, go hard up the hills where you're breathing hard. Because you got to actually practice those situations so that when you come up on an animal, and because that's the thing, Armando, like, let's say you've had guys with you, you heard an animal, they're up over a ridge and you got to take off. And then,
Yep. That's you look back and you can kind of get from the guy's face, like, if he's looking up the hill, you're like, well, this is gonna be, we're probably not gonna make it up there on time. But when you look back and he's giving you this number, like, let's go,
oh yeah,
and it's so important, for you to be on the same page with the guide. I think that's another thing. Like, you're there, trust them. You're paying, like, somebody's paying this guy a wage because they're willing to put their reputation on the line as a business owner to say, I entrust, Joe with this hunter. I entrust Armando with this hunter, or Jim, or whoever's going to be guiding the guy. Like, for an outfitter to succeed, it's all based on reputation. So don't, just trust your guides. These outfitters can't afford to put you with somebody who they don't trust. There's a lot of reasons for that, but just trust your guide. Like, if he says, hey, we need to zig and you want to zag, just trust him. He's been in this country before, you haven't. He's probably hunted this species before more than you have. Like, there's so many reasons why he's the guide and you're the hunter. So please trust the guides. You might have some questions and you can talk to them after the situation happens, but if you start asking too many questions too early and it sounds like you're questioning, well, why are we doing this? Why wouldn't we go that way? Make his play first. And then when you're done, then you can ask, hey man, can you explain to me why we went up the canyon or around the canyon instead of up and over, or whatever, whatever the play is, that's when you ask the questions. Help me understand why we did what we did. And, a lot of this, Joe, like, to you guys and the way you teach and what you guys offer with the Blue Collar Elk Academy, like, you can learn a lot of this before you get to the mountain. That way, when the hunter says, there's a bull bugling right there and he's just up above us, but we're not going to go after him. And as a new hunter, you're thinking, what in the world? Like, what? This is the worst elk guide. I just wasted 10 grand. I am pissed. I walked all summer for this, and now we're not going to go get him. He's 400 yards away, and we're not going to go. But he doesn't know about the thermals. He doesn't know that's going to change, and this bull's about to bed up. Like, we have him where we want him. Let's just leave him, give him some time. Then instead of running up there and trying to shoot him, we walk in there and we kill him. Like, there's, trust your guide. Like, he is there for a reason. And, he might do things differently than you do. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Like, that's something that I think both sides need to come in with, because I could go hunting with you and I, as the guide, I'm just doing nothing but learning from you. There's learning that could be done on both sides. It's just the time and the place in which that learning happens, I think, is the important part. After the action is taken, then you can have, they call it after action report, a tailboard in the fire department. Like, now let's discuss it. Why did we do that? Did it work? What could we change? How could we make it better?
Yeah, because
that I think is important.
one thing they don't realize a lot of times is that there's already if there's things going on in our minds that are just happening, just boom, 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 because we understand the wind, we understand the terrain, we understand where we're at, what time of day, what time of year, what the animal's mood is. All this stuff is going in our head, and we're deciphering and working off of that in just seconds and making a move that we know could be kind of a critical move. But to your point about learning some of that stuff before you get there, I know as a guide, it was so much easier when I had somebody that was, for a lack of a better term, a killer, somebody that understood, how to move when the animal got, close, when they didn't have a shooting lane, how to slide over to make sure they had a shooting lane. Whenever I can get off of somebody's shoulder because I have more trust in them and their hunting abilities as well, so that I can drop back and know that, okay, they'll understand, is this the animal I want? Is it going to be the shot I should be taking? I'm not going to, take anything marginal. I know how to find my shooting lanes. I know when to draw. When they have all of those things down, that frees me up to actually create more opportunities for them. But if that's not there, now I got to be on the shoulder of that person, and I've got to, now we've become a solo hunter basically, because I have to walk them through, which is the job of a guide if that's where they're at, right? But and we're talking guide here, and a lot of our people are DIY people, and I know as guides we see things that absolutely apply to when we're with them as just partners or friends, or hunting out there as well, because everything we're talking about applies. Every friggin' thing. The whole conditioning. When I have a partner that's like, yeah, dude, I want to go hunting with you. And I'm like, man, you can't even get up my steps to my room up there. You want to go hunt with me? I literally, so Gilbert Ornelas was originally my client before we were partners, right? We became very good friends, very close friends and brothers over the years. I mean, this has been over 14 years ago, man. It's been a while. But the first time that, I was taking friends of his because he would bring them in, and I would end up taking other people, and they'd come back talking about their experiences, what they had seen. And Gilbert's like, bro, Joe, man, I want to go out and hunt with you. And I'm like, Gil, it ain't gonna do
I
you
don't
no
think you
good to
do.
hunt with
Yeah.
me, man. I mean, these guys are having these experiences because when I'm able to move and do what I need to do, they're staying with me. And I'm like, he wasn't going to be able to do that, you know? And he's like, man, are you telling me I'm just a fat owl? Like that. And I'm like, bro, you are not in the shape to hunt the way I hunt. You change that, and we'll talk about it. All right. As soon as you get, and I actually gave him a goal weight, and the dude hit it, and we hunted together, had some incredible experiences. But all the things that we're talking about, whether or not I have to be off my friend's shoulder because of their experience level, or whether that I can trust them enough to do the things that they need to do so I can back off, right?
Yeah, dude, 1,000%. Yeah, guide is just a word for another hunter, and it's not meant to put us up on a pedestal or move us from anything else. It's just, I'm hunting with somebody else. You're not the shooter, is what a guide is. You are not the shooter. You're an extra set of eyes, an extra set of ears. And believe it or not, when you have the gun in your hand or the bow in your hand or whatever your weapon of choice is, for some reason your mentation changes. Like I know personally that for me, I am much more methodical and slower as a guide than as a hunter. I think I force myself into some situations that didn't need to happen as a hunter as opposed to a guide. As a guide, I say, okay, I'm putting this guy first. This is what we should do, and I am doing everything in my power to give them the best opportunity.
Right.
When I'm hunting, I feel that sometimes I force myself to say, you can do this. I don't force myself, but it's just a mental thing. Like, dude, you can do this. Slip in there and let's kill him. Let's
Right.
go another 50 yards. Let's do whatever. And if I was guiding a hunter, I say, let's be patient. Let's wait. We're gonna just give this a few more minutes to play out and see what the animal tells us the next move is going to be, what he's doing. And then it's more of a chess game. I'm not going just trying to get across the board. I'm playing a lot more chess than checkers when I'm guiding a hunter. And that's just a mental game with myself that I have to play on a regular basis. Like, dude, chill out. Like this year I did especially antelope hunting. I rushed a couple of times and made mistakes. I blew 2 antelope, bucks out. I was bow hunting, and all I had to do was sit and wait. And I was like, let's just go kill him. And I say, let's just go kill him. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't see him. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's right there. And I blew it. He was coming in. Like just what I know he was going to do. And I'm not listening to, I wish I could have myself talking to myself, but when I'm alone and I have the weapon, it changes things. So I've made a conscious effort these last couple of years to really push the brakes and actually say, what would you have a hunter do? Where is your hunter going to sit? What are you going to want your hunter to do? And that's really how I try to play a lot of things out. So even with my daughter, she's a killer and she's always on my hip. And so sometimes I'm even like, baby, you and me, we can go kill him. Like there's no doubt, like you and I will kill him. But I have to tell myself to slow down. Let's make sure it's right and make sure she gets an opportunity. Like that's what we're here for, is the opportunity. Let's not blow it up before it ever has the ability to come to fruition.
Yeah. No, and when we talk about the whole guide thing, is basically we're just talking about the person with the most experience, right? So that's what either experience with the area, experience with the animal. And the cool thing is if you've got great experience with the animal and understand the animal, I don't care where you go, you can make it happen, right? It
1,000%.
definite advantage to know an area. In fact, I would tell somebody that has a lower skill set, the more you know the area, the more you increase your opportunity, to be able to be successful. So it's kind of like if my vision's not too good, well, I can make it up with my smell and with my ears, right? And so you just have to take those other things that you can make happen better to make up for some of the things that you don't do very well, right? So now,
Absolutely.
so hunting with partners, because you transferred over from being the guide, and sometimes you're still the guide with friends and partners, right? Yeah.
All the time. Yep.
All the time. But how, like, when you do that and you're bringing those people into the fold and you guys are trying to be successful, and you can even talk about hunts that happened this year, because you had a lot of things, man, that were just so close with animals that you were bringing into people that just didn't happen because of why. Was it the critter? Was it not his day to die? Was it a failure point? Was it something that person didn't know how to close? So what do you see with those partners that are probably the things that would help them the most to improve at?
That one is actually kind of a little bit harder, I would say. Like with the client, it's easy for me to say, sir, listen, like, I'm telling you, if we do this, we are going to be in the animals. Right. Like you need to sit at this tank. The elk is going to come into this tank. I'm telling you right now. And I actually had, this is an exact scenario. I had a 2-on-1, 2 guys come in from California. They both come in. I get them set up. We have our little talk, and the night before, I'm like, okay, cool. Let me get you a radio. Each of you are going to carry a radio. You don't need to talk into it. I'm just going to put it behind your ear in your backpack. It's not in the way. It's not going to interfere with anything. I'm just going to communicate with you. That way, if I need you to move or if I want to move, and this is the way I do it. So I put their earpieces in, and then they have a mic. The mic is simply not to talk into. It's just to hit a button to acknowledge what I say. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing that I ask them to do. So I say, okay, I'm going to set up. I'm going to give you your positions where you're going to be. I set them up. I drop back. I start calling. After a while, if I hear the bull move or if everything shuts down, I say, hey, am I free to move? Or I tell them jump to the right, bump up, 50 yards, 100 yards, whatever the verbiage is.
Right.
And all they have to do is click back to acknowledge that they understand the message. If they don't send me any message back, I know the bull is there. And I just continue playing out my scenario. Maybe I drop back a little bit further. So that's how I communicate. Well, with these two guys, one of them tells me, he's all, I ain't using that shit. And I was like, well, I really think it's going to help us, sir. Like this is how I like to hunt. And it gives us, it affords us a lot more opportunity without us, especially being 3 hunters. It allows us an opportunity to communicate without any unnecessary movement. So I think it's a good idea that you wear it. If you don't want to wear it, you don't want to wear it. I ain't going to wear that, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, cool. His buddy goes, dude, give it to me. I'll take it. All right, cool. Put it in there. We go hunting. That first morning, we have a scenario plays out. We didn't kill anything. Middle of the day shows up, and I'm like, I set the guy up without the radio, and I tell him, hey, I'm going to put you on this tank. This bull's been coming in. Nice big 6x6. He's coming in kind of a little bit early in the afternoon. So we're going to sit you up. Me and this other guy will go hunting, and we'll come back for you. I ain't sitting at that tank. Like, sir, a bull is coming in. Like, and his buddy's like, dude, don't worry about him. He goes, put me at that tank. I'll sit there as long as you want me to. He goes, he's coming. I said, he's coming. You're going to kill a bull. So he goes, I'll see you guys later. Take me to the tank. Put him in the tank. I get this other guy, and we walk up this mountain. And I probably went a little further than I had to with this particular gentleman, a little bit faster than I had to. But we get to the top of the hill, dude. And
if you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our base camp elk hunting training camp. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding.
I just did it just to do it right. So I do my thing, and I smoke this man up this hill, and he gets down and he takes off his backpack, and he's, trying. I'm like, oh, dude, just catch your breath. We have some time, and we're going to wait till this evening to hunt, just relax. Buddy texts me, and I was like, hey, is that your buddy's number? And he says, just stuck one. And he's like, what? That's bullshit. And he starts blowing up. I'm like, get your backpack on. Let's go. So we got a long way to hike down. So, oh, dude, it's so funny. But he just didn't want to, he just didn't want to play, I knew the area. I knew what was happening in these tanks. I know the topography that we're hunting, and it's easier for me because it's kind of open in some spots to stay a little further back than you typically would have to. And he just didn't want to hear what I had to say, and that made that hunt unsuccessful for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, he couldn't get out of his own way. And I could tell the listeners, if you ever have a guide, there's one thing that Carl Gamage was known for saying, and Carl was like, I can't guarantee you'll kill an elk, but I can sure guarantee you won't.
Dude, that's classic. I'll save that one, Mr. Carl. Yeah, that's a hell of a statement right there.
Yes, sir. You start acting like a turd, you're in the turd bowl, man. And it absolutely, nobody, all of us are out there, whether we're with a friend or whether we're getting paid to do it. We're out there because we love what we do, and it excites us, and we love the challenge of helping somebody be successful. To not accept that and work within that realm is not it's not going to be very good at the end of the day, right? So
Yeah, you're on the same team. Keep that in mind. You guys are on the same team. You might speak, a little different languages and see things differently, but you're both there. I promise you, your guide is doing everything he can to get you an animal.
mhm.
He makes money if you're happy.
Now you
And
said it's a little different with a friend though. So
okay, that's what I was getting at.
yeah,
So for me, it's easier to tell a client,
sure.
hey, dude, we need to do this. Like, um, with some of my friends, I'll give them some advice, but sometimes I want them to also learn because I know I'm going to hunt with them more. So
Right.
it's more of a teaching experience. So I could put my idea up there, and this is what I think we need to do, and I think you need to sit here, and I think whatever it is that I think, and it's up to them to let that play out and to utilize it. So if it doesn't happen, I'll say, okay, well, maybe you probably should have done, but sometimes that's the only way to learn that lesson. Like, it's happened numerous times. You need to work this ridge. You need to sit here, whatever it is, you need to wait until after dark. It's coming, and it's going to be late, but he's coming. Hear it on the radio or get a text or whatever. Hey man, I'm at whatever. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, you have another 45 minutes that you need to be where you should be. And so it's it's a learning process for
Yeah.
me as a teacher, for them as, not as experienced. But I think that's the big difference. Is I try to just give the opportunity, because I want you to learn. I don't want, you know, nothing like nothing really bugs me as much as whatever, dude, whatever you think. Like, it's cool to have somebody with you 1,000% of the way, like, no matter what.
Right.
But I want you to use your brain. I want you to think what we should be doing, and then I give you, yeah, dude, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Like, I want us to be on the same page instead of you just reading my book. Like, be a hunter, don't be a shooter, I guess is the best way to put it. I want you to be a hunter, not just a trigger puller. I want you to learn as we're going, figure out why we're doing this. That way, when you come out and you have your kid, or you bring somebody out who's brand new, even newer than you are, you have an idea of why you're doing these particular things.
Yeah, grow, man. That's
Grow.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
And for me, over the years, I've had different people that have come in to camp with me. Most of the time, it's because they want to learn, which I'm happy to teach, but when you're 3 years down the line and they're going, so what do we do today? It's like, really, dude? I mean, what, after all of these years, what have you put in to grow and to learn off this? And that's the quickest way to not end up in my camp, man, to not grow and learn from it. Because the whole idea that I'm doing that, if it's a friend basis, is so that you can get better, so that you can do this, so that we can be partners out there. So, we can bounce things off each other, and we can get creative, and we can learn and have those experiences. Not for me to guide you, for for the next whatever years that we're out in the woods together as pals, right? So yeah, I hear you on that, man. It's all about them getting involved in that process. I mean, we expect that from our kids, right? We ask them, like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Why are you going to do it? I want you to think for yourself. I want you to grow as a hunter. I want you to develop your instincts, right? So yeah, I think that's sometimes one of the bigger challenges. And I think that's sometimes why partners end up splitting up, because it becomes a codependent thing instead of, a true hunting relationship where you're both developing and hunting and enjoying the process, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, a special hunting partner is a true blessing. So don't take that for granted. And it takes two to be in that relationship. So sometimes you're the giver, sometimes you're the taker,
Yeah.
but cherish it, because it might not be exactly 100% what you think you want, but it's so hard to find. If you're even close,
Oh
you might
yeah.
want to nurture that a little bit, and figure it out.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, Chav and I, this is our 42nd season. We haven't gotten to hunt together since his cancer and stuff. So
Mhm.
that's made it a little bit tougher, but he's still out there and he's still getting after it. And we're still out in the woods, which is that's huge for us. But I mean, and it would be one of those deals like Chav doesn't do a lot of calling. That's why we call him the ninja, man. He likes to just sneak in on things, right? That's his forte. That's what he likes to do. Little small sneaky dude, right?
Yep.
I'm big and ugly, so I got to bring them to me, man. If I move too much, they're gonna see me for sure, right? Um, so he didn't do a whole lot of calling, but dude, like if I said, man, I'm gonna go check out this ridge like that, instead of him going, okay, let's go to that ridge, it's like, well, I'm gonna head this way and check. I mean, if he had a thought or an idea, he was going to do his thing, and then we were going to bring it together and help each other out. And then there were times we hunted together, man, that it just clicked and worked because of the type of partner he was. I really enjoyed trying to bring something in for him, man. You know what I mean? I
Absolutely.
I always felt like I could kill my animal any day, and it's different. It's so different for me to help somebody else rather than myself. It's almost, I don't know, it's almost gotten, I don't want to say it because I love it and I'm passionate and my heart still thumps and everything, but I'm so much more business-like, I guess. And you know, it's something that when I'm out there, my brain and my focus, I just get that glazed, cougar look in my eye, man, and I'm all business once I get on an animal like that. And then when I get done, I'm still business and paying attention to what's going to happen, like how did I hit, what did it do, where did it go, and then staying within myself to be able to track it because I don't like to celebrate too early until I've
Mhm.
got that booger right there. But when somebody else does it, shoot, man, I'm like dogpiling them, and
Oh yeah,
it's
it's the
like,
best. Oh, it's the
yeah,
best.
yeah,
Absolutely, dude. That is the best. But you're right. You have to stay in the moment, and so many things happen in such a short amount of time that are all critical,
yeah,
right? Like those are the moments, like that you slow things down. They say, a fighter or a major league player, anybody who's a professional at anything could slow the game down. That's when you slow it down
right.
and you say, next step is boom, execute. Next step is boom, execute. Next step, and then you put your hands on the bull. But you have to take those small steps and execute each one before that will ever happen.
Yeah, and that's a great comparison you had right there because if anybody has ever coached sports, man, it's like, or even played in sports, it's like when you first get on there the first time, it's like, the game is just moving so fast. And then as you get more and more experience, it's like, the game slows down around it. It's like the Matrix, I guess. Things slow down a little bit so you
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
it differently, right? Like that. So
I,
let
I
me,
think I have a good analogy, real quick, Joe. Would
okay.
be for a new hunter hearing their first bugle.
Mhm.
You're hearing a bugle, and in your mind, you're seeing Cam Hanes and whoever else, and Joe Giglia and all these professionals hear a bull and go kill a bull. You're hearing a bull bugle. What the person who has experience and your guide or whoever it is that has experience is hearing, dude, he's bedded. He's not interested. That's just a location bugle. That's a hunter. That could be one of a million things that the experienced person hears. So that's kind of the slow the game down thing. It's like, dude, chill out. That bull is not going to come in. We don't even need to call to him. That's a hunter. That's like there's so many there's so many different things that it could be, but just slow the game down. Okay, I'm gonna hit a cow call. I'm gonna bugle. I use the soloist bugle behind me. If he's interested, he's gonna hit us back. If not, I don't think we mess with him because it's too late. The thermals are bad. We come back this evening. You blow your call. Nothing happens. Cool. We're playing chess. Let's slow down. Let's come back. I think that's a good way to bring in the slow it down. Slow the game down.
Yeah, and I always try to tell people, try to do things in elk time, not in human time. You
Yeah.
know, act like that animal is. The more that you act like that animal within however you're trying to portray what you're doing, the more convincing you're going to become. So, if you're sitting here at a certain time of day and you're doing these calls that are off the wall for what the time of day, time of year, and it just doesn't work. It's a red flag to those animals. So yeah, absolutely, man. So let me take it to another step then. You as your growth, man. The things that have been challenging, those lessons that really pop out to you along the way, and the key things now that you use or do or have come to realize. Because man, when I hear you talking now, I'm like, it just makes my heart just get bigger and bigger just with pride hearing some of the things that you're saying. And it's just so right on in so many different levels, and the things that you're talking about. Can't wait to have you work with us, man. And
I'm excited too, Joe. We'll get out there. I'll get myself out there. I promise.
yeah. And, so you've had those things, you've had challenges, those challenges that you've had to discover that molded you into the elk hunter that you are. And there's some key ones and some of those key things that now make the difference for you in the elk woods. You can handle them differently. They might be one and the same. Just tell me about that.
Man, preparation, I think, is one thing. Like, you expect your client to come prepared. So for me, I need to, especially with, people in the social media. I didn't have it before I had the business. I hated social media and Instagram, and I thought it was the biggest waste of time. But I've learned and gained a lot of value from it, and met a lot of good people. And there is some educational stuff to it. And it's a lot of it that I'll give credit to is just, the like Dan Staten, and elk shape, and anybody in that realm of you need to be prepared. Small deposits. Small deposits is what he says. You need to make those small deposits throughout the year. That way you could cash that check in September when that
Absolutely.
bull shows up.
Mhm.
So to me, like that's a learning thing to where in the past, right now I'm 42. So I was doing, guiding, I started about 15 years ago or so. So my body between being in the fire department and being young, it's like, yeah, I could pretty much get up any hill at whatever pace I needed to, like that there was an afterthought. I didn't think of that. Now I'm 43 and things don't move as quick as they used to. It takes me a little while for my legs to warm up, my lungs, like the first pull of any hill, I don't care where or what, the first hill is going to kick my butt.
Sure.
After that, I'm a train. Like, let's go. Like, I'm a Mack truck. We could go the rest of the day. But the first hill always kills me. And it's funny. And I'm laughing because I guide hunters, right? And we get to the first hill and they're like, oh my God, this guy can't even get it. We're on the first hill and he's already falling apart. He's sweating and he's breathing heavy. And I'm like, dude, it's cool. Though. I swear I'm okay. And it's so, but that happens every time. Every time they're like, bro, I thought especially the people, the friends that I take hunting, friends, they're like, bro, I thought you were this great hunter in good shape and could do this all the time. And I'm like, I'll be okay, dude. This is my hill, one hill. Give me one hill. After that, it's on. But oh my gosh, the first one always wrecks me, Joe. The first hill, no matter what, it always gets me. I don't know if it's the excitement or what it is, but hill
It's just
number
getting the
one is
blood
undefeated.
flowing, bro. It's just getting the blood
That's it.
flowing, man. Yeah.
Yeah, hill number one is undefeated against me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
people got to realize too is conditioning and shape. It's not that, you know, everything you go up is going to be perfect. It's just you can go longer, harder. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
The big thing with that small deposits and what I've learned is just pace. You
absolutely.
can't like just the mental game, guys. Hunting is a mental game as much as it is a physical sport. Like I think more mental because I could convince myself to get up any hill if I wanted to. You could convince yourself to do anything. Like the mind is so powerful, and once you afford yourself the opportunity to believe in yourself, you're unstoppable. Like if I know, like I get somebody with some confidence and I could build that into them, I'm like, shit, we like that gives me as the guide, all the confidence in the world, because I sparked that fire, dude, and it's just growing, and he knows he can do it, and he knows he can do it. And we talk through it, and it's the bull's already dead before he ever shows up, because he's zoned in, he's locked in. And as a coach, I could see you getting excited, but it, you see a kill, you see it in their eyes, and you're like, this dude's locked. It's a go. Like this is happening like right now. And so if you could afford yourself that to know I can do this, like let's go up that hill, let's make this shot, let's do whatever it is we have to do. Like it's a mental game, and that starts, today. Go for a little hike. Know that you can walk up another hill. Know that you can go another day. Like you don't need to sit out an afternoon hunt because you're tired.
Yep.
Like that I lose my mind with that. It's like, dude,
yeah,
you're wasting your time and your money, but you're also wasting my time. I could be home with my kids. I could be a million other places than watching you sit there because you're tired. Like, oh, that I'll lose my mind.
oh yeah. I mean, it's like, and that's why I tell a lot of people, like they're talking about, man, I'm getting up early, I'm losing some sleep. I'm like, you can sleep the rest of the year, man. You're only here for how many days?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just rise to the occasion, man. And yeah, it's one of those things. You take that very same hill, you take that one hill, and you've been walking and walking. You look up there and you tell them, "Oh, let's go up there and eat lunch." And like, "Nah, I'd rather eat lunch right here." Then you have the bugle go off. You, you know,
I've heard that, Joe. I'm not hungry. I'll just wait here.
and you have a bugle that goes off on the top of that hill. Dude, man, it's an attitude instant adjustment, right? Because it's the mind. It's like it's whatever feeds that need, right? So, in fact, we have a T-shirt about an attitude adjustment. It's just like how many times people like they've been going and it's funny because I tell people when you're hunting elk, you're hunting for days, for seconds. And I mean, you're putting in all of this work for seconds, right? And it's like you said, we always taught our distance runners, when you're putting on mileage, that's money in the bank, because you ain't going to be able to withdraw on that day if you haven't been putting money in there, right? Same thing with your small amounts right there, right? It's a common coaching term. You've got to put money in the bank if you're going to draw it. And then, we have these people, man, that, they go for day and day and day, and they're like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I've walked miles, I've done all this, and you can see it in the shoulders, dude. But you let an elk bugle, and they will chase that critter another 3 miles and not even know they've gone 3 miles because, what's going on in the mind, the things that we do in our own head, right? So
yeah, it's all mindset. That's if you want to have a successful hunt of any sort, it starts with the mindset.
100%.
You have to go in with a good attitude, number one, and it starts like we talked about it. It starts today. You have to know in your mind, because you cannot lie to yourself. If you didn't put in the work, you will second guess yourself. Can I make it up that hill? Can I do this? Can I do that? If you put in the work today, when you show up on September, you're going to say, let's go.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. I kind of got away because I talked about equipment and everybody, and we talked about the bow hitch, but I want to know, what are some of the things that have been, that you now utilize and use? Because you've been doing it just like me, like I said, I'm real light about stuff. I'll tell you the equipment, like for example, I have a very lightweight hammock that Manano introduced me to because I got tired of having to stick my britches in my socks and do my cuffs and stuff so that, ants aren't crawling all up everywhere to wake you up trying to sleep in the midday. So I carry a little hammock, and my Zolio has been like the two main things, and now a cell phone. Those have been like the things that really changed the game for me. But I don't do a whole lot of spot and stock type stuff like you do. And I don't, most of my time is spent around elk hunting almost year round in the things that I do. I do some turkey hunting. I do a little deer hunting. In guiding, I do a lot of different stuff, but for me personally. So what are some of those items that have become your items that are critical to your hunt game, during your hunting season?
I think one of the most important things for me, because I shake a lot when I'm holding up my binos, is uh, glassing off of a tripod. I am extremely efficient off of a tripod. Like I have really good eyes. I know what I'm looking for. I know where to look. If you put me on a tripod, I feel if there's an animal in the area, I'm going to turn him up. Like I I have very strong confidence in my eyes. But
Spotting
if
scope?
I'm not,
Spotting scope?
no, no, just binos.
Okay.
So, but the important thing to me is the tripod.
Mhm.
And pretty much everybody that I hunt with now glasses off of a tripod. So it's just a game changer. You could glass longer, you could glass better, you can find an animal and leave the binos on it. That way, when you do this whole number, you're not losing it. You could just get back into the binos because it's already set on there. So, um, depending on the species I'm hunting, I just take the binos off of my bino harness on my chest and put them on the tripod. If I'm hunting, oryx, or if I'm hunting ibex, or even depending on the country for mule deer, I'll take a set of 15s and keep my 15 by 56s on the tripod already. And then I just glass off of those. So, but either way, it's going to be off of a tripod. So that has absolutely been a game changer for me. I've become such a better glasser and hunter because of my ability to find the animals while using the tripod.
So are you scanning with them off the tripod first, and then when you locate something, put it on there, or are you actually?
No, yeah, it depends, Joe. So like I'm not gonna stop and get out of the truck just to throw the tripod up. Or if I want, like, say I'm hiking and I see something and I'm like, okay, well, I'll just take a quick glance up. But I typically say, okay, that point right there is a great spot to glass from. So I go from A to B and then I set up and I will glass there for, however long I think I need to until I've exhausted the area. And then I'll move. So it's not I typically don't wait to put the tripod on there till I find an animal. I typically find the animal while I'm already in the glass.
Okay, so are you using like a tripod handle to move around while you're doing it, or are you just going to a section looking through?
Yeah. So what I do is, like, you're looking at any particular area. I could see there's 3 or 4 spots on this hillside where probably going to be there, or there. Those are my go-to spots. So I try to pick out the obvious first. So I'm like, probably in here. So I start with them there, and I do have a tripod head. I just keep it kind of loose and I keep my hands on the binos, but it's just micro,
Right.
adjustments. So I don't use the big stick.
Okay.
I think that gets in the way. I'm not fluid with it, so I wouldn't say it's good or bad. It just doesn't work for me. So I don't use the stick that comes out. The stick on my handle is probably about 4 inches.
Mhm.
And so it just works perfectly on my hands and on my fingers. And just the way I have it set up works for me. So whatever works for you is fine. But I'll pick a spot and then I'll work it. And then I'll hit my next spot and then I'll work it. After that, if I hadn't seen anything, then I'll start my grid. It's either going to be across or up and down. But I don't grid a whole area like a whole mountain range. I pick a spot and grid that. And then I'll come down and grid that and then bump over and then overlap a little bit. But it's so easy and there's so much country, especially here in New Mexico, in the places we hunt. A lot of them you could look for hours and hours. And if you don't do it methodically, you don't know what you hit or what you didn't hit. So
Right.
you kind of have to have a system, whatever that is. Just make it work for you and try to hit all the country you want to hit.
Yeah, that's why I learned years and years ago. I used to just put the binos up and I would be moving, looking, and it's kind of like what we say about elk. The best time to draw on an elk is when they're moving because it makes everything move around them. And, I had somebody that actually taught me that, you want to put your binos in an area and you want to look over that area with your eyes within the area that's in the binos. You don't want to be moving the binos around because you're just moving everything and you miss stuff. So you want to, really decipher an area by looking at it within that bino scope of what you have there, right? So
Yeah, 1,000%. And don't expect just because you're sitting there on a tripod to pick up a full animal. You are looking for that movement, the foot coming forward, the wag of the tail, the flick of the ear. Like that's when you're being an efficient glasser. When you could pick those little pieces apart. That's when you find a rabbit from 1,000 yards away and you're like, okay, you're doing it right,
So have
because
you
he
narrowed
hopped
down to
once.
a particular type of system, like a particular tripod and particular holder for your binos, or?
Yeah, I use right now I'm using the Swarovski bino adapter, and that's just because it's just basically a rubber strap that goes off the top of the binos. So I could put anybody's binos inside of it. I could let you borrow it, I could let my brother, whoever borrow it, and their binos will fit. So
Okay.
I really like the outdoorsman's head, but you can't really share it. So as long as I'm only running my stuff, unless my partners have an outdoorsman, it's not going to work for them. So I like the Swaro one. It's pretty easy. I've never dropped a pair out of the holder. Tripod heads, there's a lot of good ones. I wouldn't even name drop on anything.
Okay.
Muley Maniac has a nice small tripod that I really like. He's a cool dude. Met him at a shoot a couple years ago, and I bought one of his tripods, and I really dig it. So get something that is fluid. That's the biggest thing. I do not like the ball heads. I do not like those at all. That's my personal preference, is to not have a ball head. So I got a nice little fluid head. I have one for my spotting scope. I use the Manfrotto head for the spotting scope. And sometimes I set up the 15s on that one. And then my smaller tripod is I don't remember what the head is on that one, but
Yeah, but what
it's
you mean
not,
by fluid is
super.
it takes pressure to actually get it to move, and it
Yes.
moves slowly to each other. Where a ball
Yeah.
head you loosen and it just it jumps to a spot and you have to retighten it, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think glassing off a tripod is a huge game changer for me, and it's made me a more efficient hunter because I find way more animals than I ever did in the past.
Awesome, man. What other kind of equipment are things that you found that you've gone to now?
Hiking sticks, trekking poles, freaking game changer. Especially on the pack out. You know, they're light enough to where I could keep in my backpack. They don't get in the way. They, you can use them for a shelter. You can set your tarp up. Like there's multiple uses for it. But my body gets so much less fatigued when I hike with hiking poles, um, especially coming downhill. My knees aren't the greatest, so when I come downhill and I use a trekking pole, I can do it, twice as much with the poles as I can without it. And especially with weight, when I'm packing an animal out, I do not hike without them. I will be using trekking poles to carry out an animal. Even on flat ground, you want to roll an ankle, you misstep, the trekking poles will give you just enough balance. And it saves your core. It saves all the accessory muscles from you having to tighten and to use your strength of every little accessory muscles that you typically don't work out. When you're using these trekking poles, it just saves them, man. I feel a lot better when I hike with trekking poles. And like I said, when you're done, you get them out, put them back. You can use them to glass off of. You could put your binos right on top of that for a quick session if you're not, if you're in the backcountry and you're not carrying a tripod with you. So I really like them. I have them in all my packs. I have pack frames. Each one of them has their own set, dedicated to it.
Right.
So I think those are a game changer, for just about anybody, especially as you get, the older you are. I think the more of a necessity it becomes to have those.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I used them was just this last year, and man, it's like being in four-wheel drive sometimes.
Yes, yes, great analogy.
Yeah. And what I found too is when you're carrying heavy weight, when we were packing stuff that, a lot of times you have to step over a log awkwardly and things like that, and that weight, is not on there great. So it really helps you out as far as, I mean, that whole balance thing to go down, it's a safety thing. It really is. It becomes way safer, man, doing stuff like that. So
1,000%. Yeah. I think those have been a big help for me. And then being able to give them to somebody, if they're having trouble on the hunt, it's like, hey man, take a load off. We'll go ahead and use these and, kind of get them back in the game.
So what about elk hunting? What are some things that key things now that you probably have that you do use or have realized that you do while you're elk hunting now that have made a difference for you?
This isn't like necessarily new, but it's just as important as anything in the world, but is your wind checker, constantly checking the wind. If you're not checking it 2,000 times a day, you ain't doing it right. I just think that that's so important, just between that and trust yourself. I use my brain a lot more. Like, I'm not there. Ultimately, you are not there to hike, to see animals. You don't need to cover a lot of country. That's what I tell a lot of people. They're like, dude, I walked, they'll tell me I walked 8 miles. And I'm like, did you see anything? Yeah, I saw one. I bumped it. I'm like, yeah, you bumped it. You could have killed that thing if you were slowed down and you use your brain a little bit, so I just think, there's so much knowledge that's out there, Joe, that with what another plug for you, and I'm not doing this just because you're on here, but there's knowledge that's available to people to learn how to elk hunt without spending the time in the woods. Like, it's going to be totally different when you're in the woods, but holy shit, like, dude, if you sat there and you went through your course or you watched some high quality videos of people explaining why they're doing things and not just watching hunts, because you could say, oh, that bull just came right in and there's 12 hours of B-roll of things that didn't happen or decisions that aren't getting spoken,
Right.
as to why this situation is playing out. So I think knowledge is going to be number one. Like, there's so much you can learn. You have to trust yourself with keep it simple and slow down. Check the wind. Like, it's back to the basics, really.
Yeah.
It's funny, old school trucks still work. They have some basic parts, but they run. And I love that. And it's kind of like the bow hitch thing. It just works. There's nothing fancy, but it's gonna work. So it's the same thing with hunting. The elk are gonna tell you, the animals will tell you what they're doing. They're gonna give you body language. They're gonna bugle a certain way. The cows are gonna, do a certain thing to where they're comfortable or they're spooked or they just shut up or they barked, or they're gonna tell you everything you need to know. Like, being able to call is important, but it's not as important as listening. I think, because the bull's gonna tell you or the elk is gonna tell you where it's at and what it's wanting to do.
Just you saying that, man, was really cool because it just reminded me how people that are better conversationalists are not people that are just thinking about what they have to say next. They're people that know how to listen to what's being said, right? And I mean, that's huge. And when you're elk hunting, if you're in that conversation, and to be in a conversation doesn't mean you always have to be yakking all the time. It's about engaging and listening to what's going on and what's being said and understanding that, right? And I think that is such a huge part of it. Like you were saying, is that there's sometimes, man, and I'm guilty of it because I just love calling boogers in. I love hearing, I love using the calls and stuff like that. But there's just times you got to know when to shut up too, right? And
I'm gonna tell you one of the most important pieces of communication, and this comes training, lots of training, especially my investigative background when I'm doing interviews and interrogations. This is one of the most powerful things when you're communicating. Silence.
yeah,
You let it play out. You have to be patient. You let it play out. They already heard you. They know where you're at. There's a certain point in time when you have to trust the game. They heard you. I'm coming. So
yeah, you don't have to fill
silence
the
is
air. You don't have to fill the
Yes,
air
you
with stuff, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Just to fill it, and that's a great point, man. uh Again, acting like the elk, if the elk are filling the air with sounds, then read the room. Then there's a way for you to be a part of that environment. If they're not, read the room. You don't need to be
Yeah.
thinking something. Just let them they're there. The thing is if you hear them, or if you know that they're within a certain closeness, they have radar on their heads, man. They can pick up sounds so much better than we can. And you don't have to do a whole lot because, when you're out there, and just think about it, if you've had any elk hunting experience, and you've been out there where you've actually been listening to these animals, how many times you find yourself just like standing there for all of these minutes to just catch that little sound of a mew. It wasn't like they were going, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Now, there's sometimes they are when they're moving and there's things and there's a time and a place for it. But like you said, there's sometimes, man, that the animals, that's how they are living. They're not making a whole lot of noise. They're going to do just a little sound so that they can identify where each other are, right? And sometimes that's all that it's needed, man. Because I can just tell you this, most of the elk I've killed, I would probably say 75% I've killed were silent bulls coming into me, right? So a lot of times what I'm listening for is not even, a mew, it's not even a grunt, it's not a growl. I'm listening for a rock rolling, I'm listening for a little thump against a stick, I'm listening to a little bit of a rustle in the leaves, whatever I can to know and identify that animal's coming into me. Yeah. So no, that's super, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think that's important for the hunter to know too, that when you're hiking in, if you have to close a distance, animals make a lot of sound. You're calling to them, they're calling to you, they're expecting to hear something. So if they don't hear something on the way in and all of a sudden you're 200 yards closer ripping one at them, it kind of could be alarming. So it's okay to make some sound. Just be aware that once you get into a radius, if you do make a sound, you are absolutely pinpointed. So
Yep.
if you have a partner with you and they're making sounds behind you, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So, gosh, so huge, Armando. I hope people are hearing it from the back row, man, because sometimes, we were talking about how you don't have to call and fill the space, but a lot of times just those environmental noises, just you walking and rolling rocks and sticks and stuff like that are actually more effective because they sell it. They know that that's other animals there. When they're hearing you and you're doing all this stuff and they're not hearing any noise, they're hearing multiple cows and they're not hearing any rocks rolling, they're not hearing any steps, no hoof prints. That's like, this does not make sense, right? It's not the painting, it doesn't paint the true picture there. So great points, man.
Right on.
Yeah. So I just got to tell you, man, this to me, it's like every time that we've gotten together, generally we're talking about the bow hitch or we're talking about ElkBros stuff or calls or something like that, and we never really got to just talk elk together. And this for me has been such a pleasure, man, because, I've gotten to really know you at a whole different level, and um, to me, that this has just been golden, to hear the experience that you have, the insights that you have, your thought processing, man, just is just fantastic, Mondo. You really have a heck of a skill set, and I can see why what you guys have been creating applies so well. It's because it's true to what you do anyway. So,
Thank
dude,
you, Joe. I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Well, yeah, I'm honored to be here, man. I'm glad that our paths crossed and that you met me at hit or miss that day and were willing to not just give us a shot, but to become a genuine friend. And I really mean that, friend, a mentor. I sent you a hat a while back, and I meant every word in that letter that I put, dude. And just so you guys know, like this man means the world to me. Um, he does things for the right reason, and I know it's from the heart. Like when he talks to you, whether it's at a show or on Instagram or wherever, he truly wants the best for you. And when he's teaching, like it's not for a follow, it's not for anything. It's because he wants you to be successful. So, you know,
Thank you,
take you know, just as you guys listen to this, good for you, because you're making progress towards becoming a better hunter, but you're also you know, supporting and learning from one of the best humans that there is. So Joe, thank you, brother. I honestly, I just truly appreciate you.
Now I got to buy new hats. None of them are going to fit, bro. So, to
No,
all
you're
you
the man.
people out there, man, you've heard something special. This has been a special gift today, Armando. I can't thank you enough. Remember, you can find Armando at Instagram on @the Bow Hitch, and then you can find them online, their website as well, as thebowhitch.com. So real easy to find, man. And all I want to leave you guys with is this, man. Whatever you're doing, keep dreaming of the screaming, keep believing in achieving, but most of all, keep grinding. We'll see you next time.
Later, guys.